Good afternoon and welcome you all in the IASLIC Foundation Day 2020 celebration program, which we will organize here through virtual mode. As we all know, IASLIC, Indian Association of Special Libraries and Information Centers, which was founded on the same day in 1955 in Kolkata with a handful of members. Now, after 65 years, this association has grown a national organization with more than 2,000 individual members and more than 250 institutional members throughout the length and breadth of the country. Also, activities also spread to every corner of the country from east to west and north to south. Besides organizing seminars, conferences, study circle meetings, other training courses, IASLIC has also celebrating from its inception the Foundation Day. Since its inception, it has organized the Foundation Day in a repeating manner, but the celebration of Foundation Day lecture program was started recent past in 2011 when Professor Panigrai was secretary and Dr. Jain Satpathy was the president. In this Foundation Day lecture program, not only senior professionals and library professionals are invited, other renowned persons from other fields, maybe vice chancellors, IQF directors, some literators also invited in this program as they delivered in the same program. In this year, we have with us Mr. Kanchan Gupta. He is the chairman of Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation. He is a distinguished fellow of Observer Research Foundation, and he is a veteran journalist and political analyst. He was attached to it. Distinguished newspapers like Telegraph, Pioneer, etc. We welcome you, sir, in this program. He will speak on the culture of books, which is very relevant in nowadays. Please, sir, I welcome on behalf of IASLIC Executive Committee and on my behalf in this today's program. And this today's program will be presided over by President Professor Narendra Lahakar. You also welcome, sir.
Thank you.
So with these few words, again I welcome all the members, all the viewers who are present in this virtual meet from every corner of our country, maybe from outside of country, to enjoy this program. Thank you. Once again, welcome. And I again hand over the mic to President, sir. Professor Lahakar, sir.
Yeah, a very good evening to you all. IASLIC wishes you good health and happy life on this auspicious Foundation Day, 3rd of September 2020. IASLIC was a body originally specialized on special libraries. Later on, it has shifted to its motto, especially within 21st century. During 21st century, there is a pressure from the allies people ourselves to make it a conglomeration of different library types of libraries, and ultimately we have gone beyond the special library, where special library is at the core of our heart, no doubt. So now all the issues, whether it is academic or public and other library types, are being included in our discussion and deliberation. Really, IASLIC is working for the libraries and librarianship, and to a large extent IASLIC is very much successful. Earlier, there was a big discussion, basically concerning to Kolkata before 1955. There needs to be a library association to represent the librarianship. And in the year of 1955, as General Secretary very rightly say, on 3rd of September, at the Lecture Hall of Indian Museum, Kolkata, a body was formed, giving birth of IASLIC, Indian Association of Special Libraries and Information Centers, wherein Dr. J.S.L. Hora, from Director, Zoological Survey of India, and also Mr. J. Saha from Indian Statistical Institute were elected as President and General Secretary respectively. with their leadership, IASLIC has grown to that present level. So we are very much happy that we have got a person like respected Kanchan Gupta, who will be speaking on the culture of book, a right topic being decided by respected Gupta to talk to us. He is very much known to other field also, though we library science people are very much now known for his leadership in Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation. We know Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation is a parent body of mainly for public library system, working for the development of libraries in a public library area, which is penetrating, which is going to from still rural library to the state central library of different states. We are very much confident with Kanchan Gupta sir, the RRLF will grow to a specific height wherein it will help the library to grow up for growing of the libraries in a country in a proper perspective. And we are very much waiting of his activities, and he's already started with a good leadership along with a newly appointed Director General of RRLF, that RRLF will try its best to develop the librarianship. Once again, I thank respected Gupta sir for coming over here to talk to his people. We are his people actually. We do not find that there is difference between RRLF and our group. We are working together. Whatever it is necessary, we are going to help RRLF also and vice versa. And we are getting that. At least we get our people, one people to talk to us about the culture of books. Now, respected Gupta sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Narendra Lahakar, for your very kind and very warm words of introduction. I am still new to Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation. It is almost half a century old institution. And I hope that in the coming days, with the help of friends like you and other members of the Indian Association of Special Libraries and Information Centers, we will be able to do something to not only rejuvenate and reinvigorate the organization, but also make a positive contribution to public libraries, specialized libraries, information centers, and that if I am successful in doing so, that would be a big achievement. I would consider it to be a very big achievement. I was frankly quite surprised when Mr. Abhijit Kumar sent me an email asking me to speak on this very special occasion. I'm not a big person. I'm not a big personality. Usually such occasions are meant for big personalities, big names. But then I thought that why not use the opportunity to talk about something about which I feel very strongly. And this is not really because of my current association with Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation. This is something about which I have felt strongly ever since I can remember. Recently, all libraries observed the Librarians' Day. I had occasion to speak at and also attend a couple of those events. And it struck me that everybody spoke about librarians, everybody spoke about libraries. Everybody spoke about infrastructure. Everybody spoke about the need for technology. Everybody spoke about uh, setting up more libraries, bigger libraries. But nobody mentioned the word books even once. And in my remarks at the end of the event, at the end of one of the events, I said that libraries are important. Infrastructure is important. But more important than all this is the soul of any library. Irrespective of whether a library is big or small, irrespective of whether a library is in a city, a town, or a village, that library is of no consequence if it does not have books. And unless we can assure that there are books, nobody is going to come and use those libraries. Now, why did I think of the culture of books? I will come to that in a moment. All of you are professionals who have been involved with libraries. You have been very successfully running libraries, managing libraries, setting up libraries. So I don't need to go into details of the history of libraries in India. But a couple of points which I would like to mention is that if we look at world history, then three countries would stand out. Three civilizational states would stand out for setting up libraries even before the rest of the world. The developed Western modern world, even before they had thought of libraries. India had libraries, China had libraries, Rome had libraries, Egypt had libraries. All of you have heard about the great library of Alexandria. It was it was a place of immeasurable treasure in terms of knowledge, manuscripts, books as they existed in those days. But the library was destroyed. It was set on fire. It was demolished. All the manuscripts, all the contents of the library were destroyed. Something similar happened in Nalanda, where the great library of Nalanda was destroyed by invaders. And also in China, we know when clans went to war, when dynasties went to war, among the first things that would be ransacked and destroyed would be the libraries. I had the opportunity to serve the government of India in Cairo for 3 years. I was the director of the Indian Cultural Center there. And as part of my work, we had a pretty detailed, pretty extensive bilateral agreement with Egypt. And the cultural component, education, culture, science, technology, those implementing those clauses was my remit during my tenure over there. So one of the projects which I had taken up, Egypt had rebuilt the Library of Alexandria. It's now called the Alexandrina Library, with the help of UNESCO. And I was supposed to help them set up the India section of that library. And as part of the process, I got to meet the director of the library, and he took me around. It's a fabulous. If any one of you ever has a chance, or if you have already seen it, you know about it. You must see the Library of Alexandria. That is what a modern library or information center should look like, feel like, be like. It is designed in a manner that from sunrise to sunset, they do not have to use they do not have to use electricity to light up the place. It is on the sea coast. And I just need to switch on one of the lights, I think. Sorry for the interruption. So when I met the director, after he showed me the premises, it even had a planetarium. He said, all this is just the facade. What you see, the building, the architecture, the very rich art collection, all this is just the facade. Till such time, the shelves of the library, the digital archives of the library, till such time they are populated with books, with manuscripts, with books, with all sources of knowledge, this library will be incomplete. It is just a tourist attraction at the moment. When libraries were not fashionable in India, we know that some of the old royalties, royal houses, they had set up libraries. I can often recall the names of Maharaja Sawai Man Singh, Maharaja Ranjit Singh of Punjab, Maharaja of Tanjore, who set up the Saraswati Library, the Maharaja of Mysore had set up a library. But these were libraries which were not for the masses. They were for the classes, and it was more an exercise in vanity of doling out largesse. And Subsequently, the when the British started, the British administration, they started setting up libraries over here. Their intention was to create a system for the dissemination of the European worldview. And everything was structured around the colonial narrative. So when the first big libraries were set up in the three presidencies, Calcutta, Madras, Bombay, those libraries were populated with books, with literature, with content that furthered the cause of the British Empire, that furthered the European perspective, that furthered the Western perspective. Again, it was all meant for a very thin crust of the people. Subsequently, after independence, a great deal of effort, a great deal of resources, a great deal of planning has gone into strengthening the system of public libraries, into creating library infrastructure. I am told that there are 46,000, and that's a pretty large number, 46 lakhs, or 46,000, sorry, 46,000 public libraries in India. And for the past many years, we at Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation, we have been trying to generate a directory of these 46,000 libraries. And that is still a work in progress. Now, why am I mentioning this? After all, why should you be interested in the setting up of a directory of public libraries? So I kept on asking my colleagues, why is it taking so much time? And they would tell me that even the state library departments, they do not have specific, correct information about the public libraries in their respective states. And here, the information we are looking for is very simple. The name of the library, where is it? I mean, the address of the library, if it has an email address, then the email address of the library, and who's the person in charge over there. And if it has a website, what is the website address? URL. So if we are not able to get this basic information from state governments, what does it tell us about our approach to libraries? That it is basically because libraries have to be set up, because there is government money available, public money which is available, because jobs have to be created, so we set up libraries. Beyond that, the nature of those libraries, what are we doing with those libraries, is of no concern to us. Every year, we purchase books, and we send out books to every public library in the country, at least to libraries which are listed by the state library divisions. And what we try to do is that we try to send books to the farthest possible library. And every year, a certain number of books are returned by these public libraries. without even the packet being opened. Some libraries which accept the books, they don't even they don't even shelve the books. So they lie in packets in some corner over there. This is essentially because we never focused. We looked at libraries from in terms of uh, jobs, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of buildings, uh, in terms of funding, but we never thought of libraries in terms of books. We did not think of libraries as the repository of knowledge. I mean, I don't intend any offense to anybody, but somewhere we lost track. And then onwards, it became a routine affair every year. Money comes, money is spent, what kind of books are being purchased, what is the nature of those books, whether those books are of any use, whether those books should actually be purchased. Nobody cares. I don't want to take names, but one particular state which has an entirely unique agriculture system of farming, system of crops, system of the nature of field output over there. They bought a huge number, I mean, not a huge number, but multiple volumes of a book about agricultural practices in Haryana. Now, the agricultural practices in Haryana would be of no consequence in this state. And I say this with authority because I live in a part of India where, in a rural part of India, and I have farms all around my house. I see their farming methods. And those farming methods are uniquely different from farming methods as I have seen them in the east of India. So why were those books purchased? There are no answers. So somehow, somewhere, we have lost interest in the very soul of libraries. And that is because we have allowed the culture of books to die a very slow death. And not only among libraries, but generally in this country, the culture of books has died a very slow, very painful, and very agonizing death. Please do not go by those 1, 2, 3, 4 books which are heavily publicized, which feature in literature festivals, which get very good reviews. All that I know, having been in the media, having lived in uh, Delhi for such a long time, I know how the system works. I have some very good friends in the publishing industry. So the publishing industry is not alien to me. I know exactly how many copies are being published of a particular book, how many copies actually sell. So a book may not sell sufficient number of copies, but it is declared a bestseller. So this kind of marketing driven commerce works to the advantage of some publishers, but I do not think it sustains the culture of books. I was fortunate to know writer Shunil Gangopadhyay well. We first met when I joined the Telegraph way back in 1982, and I was a just a trainee journalist, and I went to meet him in his cabin. Desh had an office on the third floor, if I'm not mistaken, or the second floor. I went to meet him over there, and he was very nice. I just went and introduced myself. Subsequently, I kept in touch with him. Once he told me an anecdotal story. We were discussing about books and the dying culture of books. So he said that he was in his building, he was going up to his flat in the elevator. And there was a young boy who lived in the same building. So Shunil Babu asked that young boy, "Do you read books?" So he said, "Yes, school books." So Shunil Babu again tried to encourage him and say that, "But no, what I meant is, do you read storybooks? Do you read books which are not part of your school prescribed books?" So the boy said, "No, my parents will scold me if I do that." This was many years ago. And somehow that has, without us realizing it, somehow that has percolated throughout the country, across demographies, across cities, across towns. And it is not only about a particular state or a particular region. I remember when I was a child, this must have been around 1965 or 66. My mother used to work at the library in Miranda House. And my father would be away from home most of the time. He used to work on projects. So if my school was closed and she had to go for work, she had to take me along with her. And I spent at that young age, I would have been just about 5 or 6 years old. I had to spend hours sitting in a corner surrounded by books. And that is how I was introduced to the world of books. And that is where my journey into the world of books begins. Over the years, I have become a bibliophile. I buy books. I buy books not only because I want to read them, I buy books because sometimes I feel that a particular book should be bought, it should be purchased, and it should be in my house. Uh, Maybe others can use it after me. Which brings me to some which I think are relevant issues. Have we reached a stage where libraries have started taking precedence over what should be inside libraries, that is books? Have librarians and the staff of libraries become more important than books? Has infrastructure become more important than books? And now, has technology become the new driver? That we just talk about technology, but what will we be using that technology for? And towards what end? that nobody thinks about, or at least there is very little public discourse on that. Books, and I would just like to quote Cicero, that a room without books is like a body without a soul. Books are ultimately, what is a book? A book is between covers. It has a sequence of ideas. It has a core idea and it has other ideas circulating around that core idea to hold up the central theme of that book. And unless we revive the culture of books, we will never be able to revive the culture of ideas. This was a land, India was a land of great ideas. It was a land of great initiatives. It was a land of innovation. Some of the early industries of India in modern times were based on innovation. Then slowly, gradually, we started discounting ideas. Largely also because as a society, perhaps we started discouraging, or we started looking at uh, merit as too elitist. And with the rise of mediocrity, ideas began to quietly, silently die. Instead, what we had is jugaad. I'm sure all of you have heard of the word jugaad. And we actually said that, oh, India is a land of jugaad, and we started celebrating jugaad. Jugaad has no intrinsic value attached to it. It is nowhere near the value chain that drives societies, that drives cultures, that drives economies. And yet we began celebrating jugaad. It's only now, and that is one of the reasons why uh, we have some of the biggest IT factories. Yet we are not a IT manufacturing nation. We became a nation of body shoppers. We have a Pichai who's an Indian. We have a Nadella who is an Indian. And they are running huge IT companies in America. Indians are going and servicing those IT industries where they are innovating, where they are using ideas for that purpose. And yet we are unable to do it over here simply because we have devalued the idea of idea. One of the defining features of a progressive society, of a society that is constantly improving itself, a society which is constantly modernizing itself. And when I use the term modernize, I don't mean it in the strictly Western sense of the term, but modernizing in terms of moving with the times, moving with the new realities. We One of the defining features of this society would be the number of books that are published and the number of books that are sold. Now, I'm sure India is a big country. We have books being published in regional languages. We have books being published in English, in Hindi, in Bangla, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, and they sell in large volumes. But I can't quite imagine any book competing with the number of copies of a book that are sold in America or anywhere in Europe. That runs into millions. So we all say that we like books, we love books. Oh, an author is such a big person, an author should be respected. But I doubt how sincere are we when we say these things. The proof of the pudding is in its eating. So unless I see books once again becoming a part of daily conversation, when parents are talking to their children, when we are talking to our friends, when we go out and spend some time in a coffee shop or a tea shop, as it used to be. Even when I was a student at St. Xavier's College, we would discuss books in the college canteen, at the coffee house. We would save money to buy books. So what went wrong? So we have to, this is a question I think which all of us should ask ourselves. Somewhere a country which has produced the richest possible texts in human history, our Vedas, our Upanishads, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and a country which has civilizationally relied on knowledge from text. We were one of the post-colonial countries which had a flourishing publishing industry. By 1960s, 70s, our publishing industry was pretty flourishing. 1980s. And then somehow things dissipated. So perhaps I think we should collectively think how to bring books back into our daily conversations. We should think of ways to inculcate an interest in books. And this is where all of you who are involved with libraries, in running libraries, in managing libraries, where you can play a very proactive role, a very constructive role. We can build the best library, and I give you the example of Alexandrina. I'm sure India can, if it if it sort of mobilizes the resources, and we are not short of resources, we can build a similar fabulous library over here. But what use would be that library if it were not to serve the larger cause of creating an interest in knowledge? And over here, I mean knowledge in a wide sense, in a wider sense, and more specifically, knowledge as contained in books. So these were some of the points which I thought I would share with you. I do not claim that I am not an absolutist. I do not claim that my perception of this uh, missing link between the individual, the library, and books in the library, or individuals and books, that mine is the final word. I could be totally wrong. I'm open to correction. But these are my perceptions. These are uh, my views, and I am the reason why I feel more strongly about it now is that the last 1 year I have had occasion to interact with public libraries, with state library divisions, with policymakers, with government officials, with publishers. And as I said, that I have some very good friends in the publishing industry. They are people who have virtually grown up with me. So it's a personal friendship, but they keep on sharing details about their trade with me, which brings me to this kind of a conclusion that India, where the culture of books was integral to its national identity, national culture, it was a part of a social fabric, cultural fabric. Somehow that has changed. And I sincerely believe that as a nation, we must revive that culture. I will just, before I end, I will just tell you a small story. Uh, Last year, my wife and I, we had gone for a vacation in the west coast of America. And we have some friends over there. As we were traveling, we were meeting them. So we had at our last stop, and we had, I think, 1.5 days or something like that left before we flew back to India. And we wanted to meet a very close friend. And they they were also very eager to meet us. And they couldn't sort of meet us. And we wanted to meet them in the afternoon or early evening or something like that, because we already had an evening and a night dinner appointment. So there was a small window where we could have met them. They said, look, the whole problem is uh, we have to take, I mean, our children have to go to the library today. This is their weekly visit to the library. And we can't just change that part of our weekly schedule. Everything else is negotiable. Finally, of course, we settled for a very late night meeting, and it happened. We met. But that has stayed with me. That a parent, and just a working class parent, after all, and an Indian immigrant parent in America, saying that everything else about our daily schedule, weekly schedule is negotiable, except the visit to the library for our children. So an Indian who migrates to America inculcates the culture of books over there, absorbs the culture of books over there, and makes it compulsory that his or her children must visit the local library once a week. What about us? We can't even, I mean, I don't know anybody here who will tell me that, look, Kanchan, we can't meet today, Baba, because I have to take my children to the library. Yes, I have to, I mean, we can't meet today. We are going to the mall. We are going out for dinner. We have guests coming in. There are school exams happening. Somebody is unwell or whatever. So I would leave this thought with you. How to revive the idea of idea, how to revive the culture of books, and how to make books popular and fashionable again. That's all I had to share with you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for this platform. And I look forward to meeting you again.
Should I speak? Susan? Susan, it's my part to speak.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, respected speaker, sir, really a right topic on a right platform by a right person. That is what I feel while listening to your lecture talk. I am feeling that there should be a very good number of people to listen to you. It's a introspection for us also. Being a library profession, we have to do a lot. And here very rightly you are pointing some of the issues that we have to observe. And I'm going through the different search also. People are very much encouraging. They are very much giving very encouraging comments on the role and responsibilities that has to be soldiered by us. Really, it's excellent talk that I have listened till today, and it's from your heart it is coming. That is, as at the beginning you told us, of course, that what you'll speak on your own experience, and really your lecture reflects that. And I'm very much happy. I do feel happy that we are able to get you to such a discussion, and I hope your discussion will have to be widely published by way of printed form, and if possible, please give us a small write-up, so that we will try to make it publicized to other people who are not able to listen to you. Responsibility has to be soldiered, as you are very rightly saying. You are not provided with sufficient information from the state libraries. Always it is a much talk that state libraries to a large extent is reluctant or not, they are not infrastructure, or somehow they are not having sufficient infrastructure, or even not interest also to provide information to RRRLF. But in addition, the RRRLF should try to make it successful. Till now, you are saying the director is not preparing, though it was a long overdue. So I think some other steps should have been taken. We have to revise some other steps so that the directory can be completed at the earliest with minimum information. You are talking very minimum we require, but you are not getting the support. So just one point, can you give us some idea, one point, that we are going to digital reading instead of the printed reading. What is your opinion in a very short? Can you just give us some idea? Because we people are converting to digital reading, and the printed reading are coming down and down. What is your view in this regard, please, sir? Only one small question, please.
See, a book does not necessarily have to be a physical book. As I said, that for a bibliophile, someone who collects books, someone who's a book collector, then a physical copy of a book is important. Otherwise, it can be physical, it can be digital, it can be archival, it can be retrievable, whatever. I, however, have a slightly different view on this. And that is, you see, abroad, when you go to America, when you go to Europe, the printing press over there was always highly automated, and even more so today, it is extremely. I mean, it is almost human-free manufacturing. A lot of books which were published in America by Americans or Europe by Europeans were for a long period of time printed in Hong Kong, printed in South Korea, printed in Southeast Asia, basically, and some even in India. Some of our very good, sophisticated presses in Delhi, for instance, the investment came because there were big orders to print those books, and they were re-exported. So if they are moving towards e-books and digital books, it is because there is very little. Uh, they have they have almost erased the role of individuals in publishing a book apart from editing. And even on editing, now artificial intelligence and machine learning are getting into the act. A book has just been published by the Google India head, and it has an entire chapter which is written by artificial intelligence. The author has not written it. So chapter 1, 2, 3 was written by him, uh, 5, 6, 7. And then chapter 4 was written through artificial intelligence. Now, that is the kind of world we are looking at. But in India, it is slightly different. Here, the publishing industry is very heavily dependent on human labor. If you look at, uh, I mean, not just the publisher, but the paper industry. You have people working in the paper industry. You have suppliers, paper suppliers. You have ink suppliers. In the press, you have a lot of people who are working. They have jobs. The binder has a job. So the designer has a job. So when we talk, it's very nice and fashionable to talk about ebooks and digital books. But I was speaking to the Federation of Indian Publishers, one of the office bearers, and he alerted me to this matrix of jobs involved in publishing a book in India. Now, are we as a country, as an economy, willing to absorb these job losses, these livelihood losses? I'm not too sure about that. Unless there is a gradual redeployment, retraining, redeployment, a move towards electronic publishing may not be very wise. A second aspect which is slightly sensitive, that has to do with the author and the writer. Right now, we have a system where a writer or an author is paid a certain amount of advance fees, and subsequently on every copy of a book which is sold, a certain percentage goes to the writer or the author. Now, if we stop physical publication of books, how are we going to calculate the writer's fees? And publishers, I doubt, barring maybe a few publishers, they would be extremely careful about, how many e-versions have been sold. Are they locked, unlocked? Are they downloadable, non-downloadable? Are they geotagged, non-geotagged? So there's a lot of other technology involved. So this is something which, again, it's my view. And personally, I feel that unless the publishing industry changes, unless they are able to figure out how to do it, and the writers and the authors have to be part of the deliberation, unless those details are worked out and figured out, there cannot be a big shift towards e-publishing.
Once again, I thank you all. I think on behalf of IASLIC, Pradeep Sarkar will extend vote of thanks. He is the Joint Secretary of IASLIC. Mr. Pradeep Sarkar, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening to one and all. At the end of IASLIC Foundation Day lecture, it gives me immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this event. At first, I thank Honorable Mr. Kanchan Gupta, Chairman RRRLF, for devoting his valuable time out of his busy schedule to deliver the Foundation Day lecture on the culture of books. Thank you, sir, for the interesting thoughts about the Library of Alexandria. Sir also focused on RRRLF is working on preparation of directories of libraries across the country. He also expressed his concern about how we have lost interest in the very soul of libraries. He also highlighted India was a land of ideas. Thank you, sir, for your valuable speech today. I thank Professor Narendra Lahakar, President IASLIC, for chairing this lecture and discussion, and for his valuable discussion after the speaker's speech. Thank you, sir. I thank Mr. Abhijit Kumar, General Secretary IASLIC, for his introductory speech on IASLIC Foundation Day as well as IASLIC activities. I thank Miss Indrani Bhattacharya, Divisional Secretary, Information Service Division, IASLIC, who has made this lecture program successful by organizing this webinar under the technical assistance of Mr. Sujan Saha, Life Member IASLIC, and Apurva Jyoti Majumdar, Governing Body Member of IASLIC. I take this opportunity to thank all our members who have attended this webinar and made this program successful. Lastly, I am grateful to Director General, Deputy Directors of RRRLF Kolkata for their time-to-time cooperation and coordination for making this program successful. Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
So I declare the program is closed.
Thank you. So I end this streaming now.
Yeah. Okay.